Hey guys, Eric and Roth here. We are going to talk all about season 1 of Marvel's Daredevil.
Dun, 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 dun.
The binge is done. So we're going to talk a little bit with non-spoilers, just general thoughts, and then we're going to get more spoilery. We'll give you a warning if you want to opt out then.
Yes.
We just both finished watching it over the weekend. 13 episodes, jam-packed in. What'd you think?
Oh man, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I was loving it after 5.
Right.
And so my question to myself was, can it sustain? Can I still love it as much?
We should explain. So we got first 5 early press screeners, so
Yeah.
we'd seen them like a week or two ahead of time. And then there was that wait, and you are hoping, will it keep the momentum?
Will it keep the momentum? It did. It
Yeah.
absolutely did. All of the elements that I was enjoying about it in the first 5 carried through. And even certain things that weren't quite as there developed even further as I went along in terms of some of the support characters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, man, I was really loving it. I mean, there were things that surprised me, which is hard to do.
I thought it was terrific. I think it's a standout. I think it is one of the best comic book TV shows we've ever seen. I feel safe saying that. And I think it's
Do you think it's the best?
I'd have to think about it. I don't want to say it in the wake of this weekend saying that. But I also just think that it's a real triumph as far as something different,
Yeah.
because we wondered, this was their first Netflix show. Content-wise, we knew they could go further than they ever could on ABC. Arguably, they could go further than they could in the movies, because I feel like Marvel's way more hesitant to ever put out an R-rated movie.
Oh.
But because of marketing and ticket
I
sales.
would be shocked.
But Netflix, because there was a lot of stuff in this show I see them not letting happen in a movie.
Oh, no.
And it was kind of amazing. And I am not one of those people, I've seen people jump to this is how all the movies should have been. No, that's not true. The Marvel movies have mostly been completely what they should be for those specific characters.
Absolutely. I think the thing that's exciting about this is that it honored this character. Well, this version of this character.
Which is the more popular. The more popular one. Now, not to take anything away, there's been Mark Waid has recently done a great, much more lighthearted Daredevil. But Daredevil, most people think of the Frank Miller influence, dark take on the character. That's what I grew up with, and I do think it was terrific.
It was, one interesting thing for me is that because I grew up in New York, so there is that part of me going like, Hell's Kitchen is not even it's so gentrified now. It's New York has so changed from the time that these stories were being written, and I just got a New York accent talking about it, and it really was that. You know, it really was. Hell's Kitchen was Hell's Kitchen. It was dangerous, and Alphabet City was also equally dangerous. They're both totally different now.
Yeah.
But it was almost like I allowed myself to give over to the fantasy. There was a piece of me that wished they reset it in Detroit, where I actually think it's a more appropriate setting for the story they're trying to sell right now. But you almost allow yourself into the fantasy world that Hell's Kitchen is still like this.
Yeah.
You know?
And the reason, is because there was an alien attack. That's kind of their in-universe reason.
It was a great reason.
Yeah. It was really cool. So now we're going to shift into spoilers. So safe to say, if you haven't watched Daredevil, go watch it right now.
Yeah.
Now let's shift. If you're still with us, spoilers ahead.
They probably are watching it right now.
They might be watching right now. So now we're going into the spoiler stuff. I mean, we mentioned supporting cast in general, but everything, Daredevil himself was awesome. And then Wilson Fisk, they sort of yin-yang of it all. He was terrific. There's a slow build, you hear his voice, then we see him at the very end of the 3rd episode, then he really starts to take center stage, and so good.
So good. I think what I loved about him was his vulnerability. There's 2 things that I loved about him. The fact that he can rip off a human skull with a car door.
Rip it off. He bashed it off.
He bashed it off, but then I think ultimately with the skull there needed to be some ripping in order to remove the tissue and the brain and all that. But yeah, the fact that he is so motivated by his emotions. He's so driven by his emotions, even in his violence.
Yeah.
Even in his desire to be a man that he is not. And so when he finally has that realization about what exactly he is, by the end of the series, I thought it was so earned.
It was. Although I loved his origin episode. He's such a great character. I really liked all the characters. I thought it was a really strong cast and a likable group. I've seen some people who kind of bemoaned some of the Foggy and Karen scenes away. I like those scenes. Yeah, they might not be the most plot-heavy scenes, but I think they did help make the show not 100% dour, and kind of filled out the world of Matt Murdock and who these people are who are very important to him. I liked Foggy a lot. I liked Karen a lot. I did like that while there were seeds planted for maybe even a love triangle, which was interesting because it was stuff with her and Foggy, it didn't have to be about that right now. It was more about the fact that she was very close with these two guys. She met him at the beginning. By the end, the three of them are a team. And I thought that was really well done.
Well, I think the other thing that I really liked about Karen is that when she finally does shoot, oh my God, Wesley, when she finally does that, and we have given a spoiler warning, right? I'm not horrible.
Yeah.
So when she finally does that, I did not see it coming. I was so taken aback. Not that she did it to save her own life, who wouldn't? It's that she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And so what that tells me is there's so much more to the, and she says, do you think this is the first time I've shot anybody?
Yeah.
Man, there's something really dark going on under the surface for her. And they painted such a light, in the midst of murder and chaos and mayhem, a lighter, bubbly picture of her as much as is possible. So that was kind of very fascinating to me about where she's going to go from here.
Yeah.
What's this girl? Who did she kill?
I know. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting little tidbits there you want to get more about.
Because her story in the comics, she goes down a dark path. And I did an interview with Deborah Amral, and she was like, they're kind of combining her origin story and the dark path in this series, which I think is pretty interesting.
I thought that was really cool. I will say I really liked Ben Urich, and I thought it was another great performance. I was a little disappointed by the end. It was a shock that they killed him, because if you know the comics, he's such an ongoing part of Daredevil's world, of the Marvel world, that it was kind of a shock to kill him. I wished he'd kind of paid off in the end, even if it's maybe even a cliche. I kind of did want he uncovered something important that was after his death, could have been something, because that was a little weird to me, was that he didn't ultimately get that moment even in Death or Not. I wish there was a little more of a payoff with Ben, because it was a very good performance, very likable character.
I agree. I really enjoyed him on the show, but I almost feel like that makes me respect the choice that they made creatively, because that's absolutely what he would do. I mean, he ripped a head off because someone
bashed a head off.
Agree to disagree. Because somebody embarrassed him on a date. What's he going to do if somebody messes with his mom?
Oh, yeah.
You don't mess with somebody's
mom.
Don't
mess with Kingpin's mom.
No yo mama jokes to Kingpin.
No, not at all. I will say I did think the last two episodes did lose some steam. In the totality of the thing, it's such a achievement. I love the show. I did think the last two didn't quite have the excitement that I felt the rest of this.
The propulsive feel?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Because I feel like, and I talked to somebody else about this, and they sort of felt I was making this up, but you tell me, are there demons? There was an aspect of this that felt like it was going to go to a very supernatural place. And I'll tell you the 3 reasons why. 1, the conversation that he had with the priest about the devil existing in the world, followed up with Stick talking and saying, them saying, is he going to be ready when the gate opens? The gate. And then when Gao walks off and goes, it's a good deal further than China, and she disappears.
I don't think it's demons necessarily. I think the first thing is totally separate. The first thing is about his Catholic nature and his religious nature, which is very important to the character.
Well, it is, I know, but I'm saying there was something about it that felt to me that they were laying the seeds for a literal manifestation of evil.
Well, I don't know if it's demons. It's definitely set up. It's set up for the Defenders, because there's a lot of connection to Iron Fist. The heroin packets were a connection to Iron Fist villain. So there was, and even the thing she said, I think they're laying groundwork for the supernatural world entering into Daredevil. Maybe not supernatural, some fantastical thing. I don't think it's
I think it's gotta
demons
be
from hell.
I don't think it's demons from hell, but there is a gate, there is a fantastical element. Is it interesting for you to see that go into Daredevil, knowing that it's leading into the Defenders?
Yeah, I mean, because in the comics he is part of Marvel. He has fought crazy supervillains. So while he's a street level hero, he is part of a world that even in the movies now has aliens and superheroes and villains. So you do want to lay that in there so that it's not out of nowhere. We have set it up as background, and then we can go into it. Before we wrap up, though, one thing we really haven't talked about that we should is the action and the fights. It was going to be a very important aspect, and they were kind of talking it up beforehand. Completely delivered. Fantastic action scenes. And I just loved that this is a guy who was winded.
Yeah.
It was hard. It wasn't easy. He could kick ass, but it would take something out of him.
But it took something out of him. There were consequences. It gives a different kind of stakes. You know, the fact that he's going to totally be demolished, you know, and that he has to build this suit. He has to, or he's going to die.
Yeah.
There was something about that I really loved. You know that I really enjoy watching UFC. So for me, hand-to-hand in a film is a huge aspect. Really good hand-to-hand fight sequences is something that I love. Oh, dude. These were great. These were so well choreographed.
Everyone's already said it, but the end of episode 2, that fight scene in the hall, which was all really one take, what a standout.
What a standout. And listen, it is heightened, right? Like, this isn't like, people really fight this way. But so well done.
Yeah.
So well done that it felt like it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know, it's like, is it 100% realistic? No. Yeah, did he have to do some of those jumps off the wall? No. But he is Daredevil, he is a Marvel hero, and we want to make it grittier, more realistic than we're used to in this world.
Yeah.
It was perfect,
2 thumbs up.
Yeah. So that is our thoughts on Daredevil Season 1. We are very hyped up to see more about this. I really hope we get a Season 2 before Defenders, because that's
Me too.
quite a ways away.
Poor Kingpin.
Yeah, we'll see. But for plenty more, there's going to be ongoing stuff to talk about with Marvel, and we'll be covering it. Keep it here at IGN.